Hello everyone, welcome to the Testing Trainer YouTube channel. In this session, we are going to discuss test execution in software testing. Okay, so this is one of the most important topic in the whole tutorial. So please be attentive and check all the details whatever I'm saying. Okay, now let's get into the session. So what is test execution? So the test execution is nothing but we are going to execute the test cases or test scenarios which we have written. Okay, that's it. Nothing major or nothing robotic science here. It's very simple. So if you write it, if you have a requirement saying you should be able to log in with a valid username and password, you would have written an test cases with that, and then you're going to actually go to the application, web application or any application, and try to log in and see whether we are able to log in. Okay, and this is one of the most important part of the testing process. We test and find the bugs and get it fixed. Okay, so if there is a bug, we are going to find it and get it fixed, and we are making sure the quality is not compromised here. Okay, so this is a test executed in a nutshell. Unless until I give a real-time example, so it will be very hard to understand for a few of the people. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to open a web application. Okay, and we are actually going to test it. Okay, excited? Let's get into it. Now before we actually go to test it, in general, like there are some exploratory testing we can do it, or like a small any other experience based technique or checklist based technique, we can directly get into the app and test it. But in the formal testing process, so you'll be doing the we'll be having a requirement, you'll be analyzing the requirement. With that requirements, we'll be drafting the test cases or test scenarios. After drafting the test cases or test scenarios, you have it in your hand, get the data, all the data setup ready, then you get into the testing. Okay, so now let's get into that phase. Now let's see how that is being done in this testing. Okay, whole testing industry. So now let's open the requirement. Here the requirement is three things. User should be able to see username and password text box in the login page. So shall we write one case for it? Yeah, I'll just write it here. Go to login page. User should be able to or like verify the username and password field. Labels and fields should be displayed correctly. Okay, this is sample test. Now, oh sorry, I just entered the precondition field should be here. For now I'll just close this phase. So we don't have any precondition as such, or we can say like, okay, we don't have any precondition. This is a simple test, so we don't need to have any preconditions. All right, let's see next. Now this is just test description, and then so we have written one test for this requirement. Now next test login button should be available and user should be able to select it. Okay, we can cover this requirement here. Okay, so upon entering username and password, user should be able to log in successfully and success prompt should be specified. We can click the login button as they say here in this one. So with this requirement, I'm going to draft three test cases. What happens when user doesn't enter? See here, if wherever you work, this is a requirement. I mean, like you can raise a question. Okay, now you are saying when you enter a valid username and password, you should be able to log in. What happens if a username and password, if you enter an invalid username and password? Okay, so what kind of message we should display? That should display. So you have to ask the question and get the correction in the requirement. Secondly, what happens if you don't enter the username and you enter the correct password? What happens when you enter the correct username but wrong password? So what happens? So you have to ask all these questions. Okay, so now think about it. I've asked all the question to be and I've get the requirement corrected, and I've drafted these test cases. I have 5 test cases. I'm going to do a live demo of testing to you guys. Okay, now that's how I analyze. After I analyze, I analyze the requirement. I found few gaps. I asked the BA and get it corrected. So now I have 5 test cases. So this test cases we have written together, right? And this test case says go to login page, enter the valid username and password, login. You should be able to log in successfully and log out. Maybe I will just cover logout later. Second, enter the password and leave username empty. Again here, vice versa. Enter the valid username. Okay, these are two are same. So probably I'll just delete it. So see here, we are entering the valid username and leaving the password empty. So I'll put valid here. Okay. See, one important thing, whenever you are writing the test case, it should be easily readable to all the people. Okay, that's how you have to design your test case. So now these two, negative test, this is one positive test, and here just validating the label. Okay, now shall we start the testing? We have 5 test cases ready to go, 4 test cases ready to go. Okay, now let's get into this app. Okay, now this is a sample test application. Here they're saying accepted usernames. You can give this username and there's one password, that's secret sauce. Okay, now as per this requirement, first test, we'll just do this test. Okay, go to login page, verify the username and password field. So we have a field for username, we have a field for password. So with this, that means it's all working correctly. So the actual result is we can log saying that fields are available and status has passed. Very good. So we have done the first testing along with you all. Okay, great. Now let's do the positive testing. Enter the valid username and password and log in. Go to the here, enter a valid username, enter the valid password. I'm saying enter, so better I will enter and do it. Okay, see and login. See, login is successful. Leave this message. Login is successful. So now what should you do? Able to login. Passed. Done and dusted. So okay. So we have done 2 test cases and both are passed. Now let's do this one. Okay. I'm going back to the scene and I'm going to log out now. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a negative testing. See, whatever we have done so far is a positive testing. Positive testing in the sense like, so you do a very positive, happy path. We say that as happy path or positive testing. Like positively, when you enter valid things, it will be going and successful. So invalid one we call as negative path. So invalid thing. So what happens? So now I'm going to enter a valid username. So let's see this test. Go to enter the valid username and leave the password empty and log in. So I'm going to enter the valid username and password empty. See, password is required. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, so now this is working as expected, right? So now what we can do is working error message displayed, and if you have to make sure this is a correct message the business people wants. Okay, if the message is not correct, then you can raise a defect for it. Okay, now think about it. Here the message should be, instead of epic sad face password is required, it should be please enter the password. That is what saying in the requirement, but here it is displaying as epic sad face password is required. That means this is a defect. So you have to raise a low level defect and you have to do it. Okay, I will also show you how to raise the defect as well, because I want this session to be covering a full end of how we are doing the testing. Okay, now this testing is, we can say as failed because the message is incorrect. So what I will do is like, okay, error message is displayed but message text is incorrect. Alright, cool. Now I'm going to make the status as failed. Okay, you can just put like this and this one like failed. Okay, now this is failed. Now I'm going to enter the valid password and leave username empty and login. Now what I'm going to do, leave this username field and enter the valid password. Done. Now the username is required. Think about it. This is for username, this is correct. Okay, this is what business is expecting. Then you can mark this test as passed, because anyhow the major functionality without username or without an invalid, with an invalid username or anything, we are not able to log in. Okay, now we can select error message input message is displayed. Alright, perfect guys. So that is, see, testing is not at all a big thing. Okay, this is what testing is. Now I can derive two more negative scenario. Okay, so what are all those negative scenario? Here I can end these. Here we are leaving the password and username empty, right? Instead of that, what I'm going to do is invalid password. Okay, now here valid password and invalid username. Just edit this. Okay, I can do another testing. Just edit this one. So here anyhow you should not be able to log in. Shall we do the testing? Yeah. Now what I'm going to do, invalid blah 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 blah. Login. See, the username and password do not match any user in the service, so we are not able to log in. But see, the text alignment is all incorrect. So it is not properly displaying. Half of the text is gone, half of the text is, it doesn't look like a good behavior. So you can raise another defect for it. Mark it as a minor defect. Okay. So what we can do is, why it is minor defect is, we are anyhow with an invalid username and password, we are not able to log in, right? So that is the functionality, main functionality is working fine. If you are able to log in with an invalid credentials, then that is a major defect. So as that major functionality is working here, it's just a minor issue. So you can raise it as a minor defect. Now this is actual results, like input the same thing, like error message displayed, but alignment is not correct. Okay, and you can fail this test. And now valid password and invalid username. Oh, this is what we have done. Sorry, that's what here. Now, let's test this one. Now enter the valid username and invalid password. So I'm going to enter a valid username and invalid password. What is the valid username? Standard username. So valid username, invalid password, blah 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 blah. Again, we are getting this message. So that means, as I said earlier, major functionality is also working fine, but the minor issue. So again, you can fill this one, and then you can put this here. Testing is completed. That's it. So I have done this testing along with you all. Okay, this is what testing is all about, guys. This is test execution. Okay, now what you all have to understand is the test execution is the most important phase, and this is how we have to do the test execution. But one important thing is, whatever I've shown, it's like a very simple one. Okay, login is a very simple functionality. But when you go to work, if you're already a tester, then you might have faced lots of different functionality, right? So if you're a student, or if you plan to get into software testing, then this will be very easy to understand for you. That's the reason I keep things simpler, so that it is easy to understand, right? Now, if you have any questions on this test execution, then please put it in the comments. And thank you so much.